There's a moment in life. Maybe it's when you're staring at the ceiling late at night, unable to sleep, or when you're driving alone with nothing but the hum of the engine to keep you company. Then a quiet but unsettling thought creeps in. A feeling that something isn't quite right. That somehow, without realizing it, you've been living a life that doesn't entirely feel like your own. It's not that anything is obviously wrong on the surface. You do what's expected, meet deadlines, smile when necessary, and engage in conversations like everything is fine. But deep down, there's a strange hollowness, a nagging sense that you're just going through the motions, playing a role in a story you never consciously chose. The days blur together, each one resembling the last, as if you're following a script written long before you even had the chance to question it. Parents, teachers, friends, and society at large all handed you expectations, rules, and identities to wear like costumes, and over time, they became a second nature that you barely noticed. You laugh at the right jokes, nod in agreement, and play your part so well that even you start believing it. Until, in those rare moments of stillness, the illusion cracks. The silence becomes deafening, and a single question begins to whisper from somewhere deep inside. Who am I, really? Carl Jung believed that this feeling isn't just some fleeting thought to brush aside. It's a signal, a symptom of something buried deep within, a truth that most people spend their entire lives running from. The uncomfortable reality is that countless individuals never come face to face with their real selves. Instead, they become mirrors, reflecting what the world expects them to be, piecing together an identity from the rules, traditions, and silent expectations imposed upon them. They slip into predefined roles: dutiful child, obedient student, responsible adult, without ever questioning if these roles truly align with who they are. And the most tragic part? They never realize that anything is missing. They exist, they follow the path laid out for them, and one day, they disappear. Now, a far more important question emerges. Could this be happening to you? The version of yourself you recognize in the mirror, your opinions, your ambitions, your very sense of self, how much of it was genuinely chosen by you? And how much was shaped by the hands of others, molded by expectations you never even consented to? From childhood, we are shaped, not by conscious choice, but by the expectations of the world around us. We are taught what is acceptable and what is not, which parts of ourselves are worthy of expression, and which must be hidden away. Every correction, every disapproving look, every subtle reward for conformity molds us into something that fits the framework of those who came before us. To belong, to be loved, we adapt. We learn to present a version of ourselves that meets approval, a carefully curated facade designed to keep us safe from rejection. Jung called this mask the persona, the social identity we wear to navigate the world. And in many ways, it serves an important function. Without it, interacting with others, building relationships, and integrating into society would be nearly impossible. But the danger lies in mistaking this mask for our true self. What happens when the act becomes so convincing that even we forget it's a performance? When the face we show to the world is the only one we recognize in the mirror? Think of the moments you've swallowed your thoughts, not because you lacked conviction, but because you feared judgment. The times you forced a smile when your chest burned with unspoken frustration. The choices you made, not because they felt true to you, but because they aligned with what was expected. With each act of self-betrayal, the distance between who you are and who you pretend to be widens. And the scariest part? If you play the role long enough, you may wake up one day to find that the person beneath the mask has faded into obscurity. That the real you, the one you silenced, the one you buried, has become nothing more than a distant echo, lost in the noise of a life lived for others. But Jung warned that this disconnection from the true self does not come without consequences. The weight of an inauthentic life manifests in ways most people fail to recognize: an underlying restlessness, an inexplicable dissatisfaction, a deep sense of something missing. It creeps into your quiet moments, that gnawing feeling that no achievement, no external validation ever seems to satisfy. Have you ever noticed how success, praise, or material gain only provide fleeting relief before the emptiness returns? Like happiness is a mirage, always just out of reach? That's because the fulfillment you seek isn't external. It's buried beneath years of conditioning, hidden under the layers of who you were taught to be. The real question is, are you willing to strip those layers away and uncover what's beneath? Because this journey is not for the faint of heart. To find your true self, you must be willing to dismantle the comfortable illusions that have defined you. You must face the parts of yourself you've suppressed, question the beliefs you've clung to, and step into uncertainty without knowing what you will find. But this process, what Jung called individuation, is the only path to true freedom. It is the process of reclaiming every fragment of yourself, of integrating every hidden aspect, and becoming whole. It is not about creating a new identity, but about rediscovering the one that has always been there, buried beneath years of conditioning. And while it is difficult, it is the only way to live a life that is truly your own. From the moment we take our first breath, we are shaped by forces beyond our control. Maybe you were taught to always be agreeable, to keep your voice soft, to never challenge authority. Or perhaps you were raised to believe that strength meant suppressing vulnerability, that emotions were a weakness to be conquered rather than understood. These lessons were not given to harm you. They were passed down by those who believed they were necessary for survival. But without realizing it, you began to shape yourself not based on who you truly are, but on what was required to fit in. And so the mask was formed, not as a conscious deception, but as a survival mechanism. If you've ever found yourself acting one way in a professional setting and another at home, if you've adjusted your personality based on the company you're in, then you have already felt the power of the persona. It allows us to function in society, to navigate relationships, to avoid conflict, but the real danger lies in forgetting that it is just a role. The moment you believe that the mask is your true self, you lose something invaluable, the connection to the person you are meant to be. The longer you rely on the persona, the more distant you become from your authentic self, until eventually, the line between the two disappears. You are no longer living, you are performing. And yet, for many, the persona is all they have ever known. It offers comfort, predictability, and most importantly, acceptance. It may bring social success, professional achievements, and external approval, but it will never bring true fulfillment. Because real fulfillment comes not from meeting expectations, but from aligning with your inner truth. When you live solely through the persona, something inside you starves. This is why so many people, despite having everything they were told would make them happy, feel lost, empty, and disconnected. Because they built their lives around a version of themselves that was never real. But if the persona is not the real you, then who is? To answer this, we must turn to the part of yourself that you have spent a lifetime avoiding, the part Jung called the shadow. And this is where the real work begins. Because what lies in the shadow is not just what you fear, it is also what you have rejected, misunderstood, and forgotten about yourself. The shadow contains every emotion, desire, and trait that you were told was unacceptable. But here's the secret. What you suppress does not disappear. It lingers beneath the surface, shaping your fears, your insecurities, and even your relationships in ways you don't consciously realize. It reveals itself in the moments when you act in ways that seem out of character. An unexpected outburst of anger, a jealousy you cannot rationalize, a fear that makes no logical sense. These are the echoes of the shadow, the buried parts of you demanding to be seen. And here's what most people never realize. Much of what you have buried is not bad. It was deemed unacceptable not because it was wrong, but because it did not fit into the mold you were given. Maybe you were naturally curious, but were told you asked too many questions. Maybe you were deeply emotional, but learned that vulnerability led to ridicule. So you hid these parts of yourself away, believing they were flaws. But the truth is, what you buried was not weakness, it was part of your essence. And by locking it away, you lost access to your full potential. Every time you find yourself sabotaging your own success, struggling with insecurities, or feeling emotions you don't understand, it is often the shadow fighting to be acknowledged. And if you refuse to face it, it will continue to control you from the depths of your unconscious, shaping your actions in ways you cannot see. What if, instead of fearing your shadow, you sought to understand it? Because here's the truth. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is the key to your wholeness. Within it lies your raw energy, your forgotten strengths, and the parts of you that were never broken, only misunderstood. You cannot become your true self until you integrate your shadow. But doing so requires something most people are not willing to give: courage. At the core of all this lies something even deeper, what Jung called the self. The self is not just your personality, your preferences, or your beliefs. It is the full, unfiltered essence of your being. It is the fusion of your light and your dark, the integration of every part of you into a whole. And individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, is about bridging the gap between who you think you are and who you were always meant to be. But the reason most people never reach this stage is simple. It is terrifying. To find the self, you must be willing to look inward, past the distractions, past the layers of conditioning, and confront the deepest truths about yourself. You must recognize that much of what you have identified with, your achievements, your status, your carefully constructed identity, is not truly you. And this realization is not comfortable. It is why most people choose the safety of their persona over the uncertainty of self-discovery. But that choice comes with a cost. Those who avoid individuation pay for it with anxiety, depression, and an unshakable sense of being lost. They find themselves repeating destructive patterns, seeking fulfillment in achievements, relationships, or external validation, only to discover that no matter how much they acquire, the emptiness remains. Because the one thing they are truly searching for themselves is the one thing they have refused to face. But for those who are willing to step onto this path, the reward is something beyond what the persona could ever offer. Freedom, not just the freedom to do what you want, but the freedom to be who you are. To live not as a character in a script written by others, but as the author of your own story. And that journey begins the moment you stop running from yourself and start looking within.